Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for coming to Pasta Making 101. I'm glad that you showed up today, and I hope that you can come away with some ideas about how to make pasta in your own home, fresh. It's very easy to do, and it's just going to take us a few minutes. First, let's see what it is that we need to have assembled. You can see in your handouts, follow along with this list. We're going to need a large, clean workspace. Right now we're just going to work on this cutting board on top of the table. You could work directly on the table too if you had a nice, smooth surface, but I think for our purposes it's better to work on the cutting board today. We need a fork because we're going to mix it up. You need a liquid measuring cup with approximately 4 ounces of water. We're going to be adjusting the moisture content in the pasta, so we may or may not need this, we'll see. Just have it around. You need a dry measuring cup, which we're going to use to measure the flour. Some plastic wrap, a knife of any kind, a pasta machine. This is going to help you roll out the pasta into nice thin sheets. It's not necessary to have one of these, you can just do it by hand, but for our purposes today I think it'll be easier to use the machine. I've got one. And we're going to be using about a pound of flour, so you need to have some flour out. Some salt, a little olive oil, and 4 eggs for this recipe. Alright, to start you need 2 cups of flour. Measure them with the measuring spoon, nice and flat with a knife. And just pour it straight onto the cutting board. This recipe calls for plain all-purpose flour. You can use other kinds of flours if you'd like to vary your kind of pasta. You could use a whole wheat flour, or I've got semolina flour. Different kinds of flours are going to produce pastas that are tougher or softer. All-purpose flour is very soft, very easy to work with, so if you've never made fresh pasta before, I'd suggest using this recipe because it's one of the simpler ones. We're going to add a pinch of salt and mix it up with the flour. At this point too, if you wanted to add another flavor or color to the pasta, you'd add it now. For example, if you wanted spinach pasta, you would cook some spinach off, drain it, squeeze out the extra moisture, and add it right now. You could do something as simple as fresh ground pepper. It'll give it different color, different flavor. You can do whatever you like. Okay, I'm making a little hole in the center here with my fork because we're going to add the liquid components right to the center of the flour. We need 4 eggs. And like I said, this is a very, very easy recipe. I have seen recipes that call for as many as 8 egg yolks plus 4 eggs. It'll give you a totally different kind of pasta because you're using a higher yolk ratio. But this is a very easy recipe, so we're going to stick to 4 whole eggs. Drop them right in the center there. Move these out of the way. And now we need just a little bit of olive oil. Just a drop. Maybe half a tablespoon. And you're going to take your fork and break up the yolks and just kind of whip them up as if you were making scrambled eggs right in the middle of your little flour bowl right here. Oh, we have a little escape going on here. Just move some more flour onto the side to block that from happening. And once the egg yolks are broken, you can start incorporating flour into the mix. And as you incorporate the flour, the egg yolks are going to get thinner, or thicker, sorry, and you won't have the problems with escapage quite so much. Just keep mixing. mixing more and more flour until all the flour is incorporated and the eggs are no longer separated. As you can see right now, it's still quite wet. We have that little extra water there in case it was too dry. I don't think we're going to need any of it, but we'll see once all the flour is incorporated if we do. Almost all the flour is in there now. And it's starting to come together in a mass. Now you could do this whole thing in a KitchenAid mixer and it would be extremely easy. Just put the flour in, put the salt in, put in the egg yolks and a little olive oil and put in the dough hook. Start it on low and it will form a ball within 1 or 2 minutes. Then you can leave it in there for another 5 minutes or so and it will do the kneading process for you as well. It's very simple. If you have one of those at home, then you'll be making fresh pasta in no time flat. Alright, all the flour is pretty much incorporated, so we're going to try to get it into a nice little ball of dough here. And it feels to me like it is definitely wet enough. I don't think I need to add any extra water to this. The first time that you make pasta, you won't really be completely sure, is it too wet, too dry, but when you start working with your hands, you'll notice, oh, it's a little too wet still. See, it's like sticking to my hands here. So I'm going to want to add a little bit more flour actually, and you can just knead it right in. Just sprinkle a little bit on top there, and we're going to be kneading the dough now over and over again. Fold it over and press it down. Yeah, it's still a little wet there. Fold it over and press it down. And just do this over and over again for about 5 minutes. This is when having that KitchenAid mixer is really helpful because it's very easy to do then. You're just fully incorporating the flour and the egg yolks, and you're working what we call the glutens. Probably heard a lot about glutens on television. A lot of people want gluten-free food these days. Gluten is what gives flour its texture. So you're giving a nice elastic texture to this dough.